Today marks 50 years since the Supreme Court handed down its decision on Roe v. Wade, the landmark case that determined that Americans have a right to have an abortion. However, the anniversary is bittersweet. It's the first one since Roe was overturned last summer, allowing individual states to enact a patchwork of anti-abortion laws that sometimes contradict one another. Abortion rights continue to be under assault by conservatives who say they want to make abortion, quote, unthinkable. In the 7 months since, there have been documented cases of young victims of sexual assault, cancer patients, women with non-viable pregnancies who face difficulties obtaining necessary abortion care because they live in a state with an abortion ban. Healthcare providers in some states are even delaying life-saving abortions until the pregnant patient is on the brink of death because that's the legal standard that anti-abortion lawmakers have crafted for them to operate under. And pharmacists are now being accosted as well, as some pharmacies prepare to dispense abortion pills directly to patients for the first time per a change in FDA rules. Now, it's a small irony that abortion pills are set to become more widely accessible at local pharmacies and even through the mail, services that were not widely available while Roe was the law of the land. But without constitutional protection, patients, pharmacists, physicians, other people are exposed to legal risks that didn't exist for them just 7 months ago, as my MSNBC colleague Marissa Para discussed with Doug Hoy, the CEO of the National Community of Pharmacists Association.
So you're a pharmacist, you're a healthcare provider, you have a patient you're trying to take care of, you're working with other healthcare providers, and you need to know that your actions are safe. Safe being in compliance with the law, helping that patient, and not doing something that's going to, run afoul of losing your license, losing your livelihood, and also doing anything that would compromise patient care. So we really need that clarity from the states and from federal regulators.
What do you think the likelihood is that you'll get that clarity?
Pretty low. I don't think it's very likely at all. So I think we're going to be operating in this limbo world for quite a while.
Well, that limbo world is where we're at now. One of the other burgeoning battlegrounds in this new fight for abortion rights is at the state Supreme Courts. Both supporters and opponents of abortion rights have spent the last several months filing challenges that have been making their way through the court systems across this country. Earlier this week, Indiana State Supreme Court held a hearing regarding a challenge against the state's near-total abortion ban. Meanwhile, in Kansas, the state's newly inaugurated Republican Attorney General says he will challenge a vital Kansas Supreme Court case which determined that abortion is protected under the state's constitution. That's despite the fact that last August, you'll recall, Kansans voted down a ballot measure that would have added an anti-abortion amendment to its constitution. Later today, supporters of abortion rights will gather in Madison, Wisconsin to call attention to the importance of a state Supreme Court race that will be consequential in determining whether or not abortion will be legal in that state. Roe was never fully perfect, and its protections were weakened when anti-abortion groups attacked its integrity over the years, but it did offer a safety net that nevertheless ensured that Americans had the constitutional right to an abortion. Joining me now is Nancy Northup. She's the president and CEO of the Center for Reproductive Rights, which is an organization that's been at the forefront in challenging anti-abortion legislation across the country. Nancy, good morning to you. Thank you for being with us.
Good morning. Good to be here.
Nancy, there's a lawsuit that's been filed in Texas federal court that's attempting to block the distribution of abortion pills. Your organization has flagged that case as one to keep an eye on. Why?
Oh, absolutely. The lawsuit in Texas is seeking to ban medication abortion, that's abortion pills, nationwide. They are claiming that more than 20 years ago that the FDA should not have approved medication abortion for use. The reality is, of course, the FDA's decision was based on science and medicine. And today, even before the Dobbs case, half of women in the United States who had abortions chose to do it with medication abortion. So this would impact not just Texas, but they're seeking a nationwide ban that would affect people in New York and California and Illinois across the country. And they filed it in before a very conservative judge in Texas. They were forum shopping. So this is one that we need to be paying attention to, because medication abortion is so not only the choice of most people who have abortions, but also so important in this post-Dobbs landscape.
Anti-abortion groups, as we discussed, are also planning to organize more protests we saw CVS and other pharmacies in the coming weeks in an effort to stop them from dispensing abortion pills. Are you concerned about this new front that now pharmacies are going to be yet a new target for anti-abortion activists.
Well, I'm concerned about all of the ways that they are seeking to achieve their ultimate goal, which is to ban abortion nationwide, intimidate pharmacies out of providing medication abortion. And they're doing this because the FDA just made another very important ruling, which is to say that local pharmacies or your CVS and your local pharmacies can decide to be able to provide medication abortion. And again, increasing access to medication abortion, very, very important. So absolutely concerned about it. At the same time, today is such a day of mixed emotions, really anger at what the Supreme Court has done in Dobbs and what it is meaning for people in those 12 states that have banned abortion under threat of criminal prosecution. But also very buoyed by what is going on. Women's March today, marches not just in Wisconsin, but across the country. Vice President speaking at a rally today in Tallahassee, Florida. And the fact that, we've said it, but we can't say it enough. The majority of Americans don't like what they're seeing. They support access to legal abortion. We saw it at the polls, whether it was pushing back in Kansas and Kentucky about trying to limit their state constitutional protections or enshrining them in Illinois and California and Vermont, where the words reproductive autonomy, reproductive freedom are now in the constitutions of those states. So it's a day of both concern, but also of real energy to get the rights back.
There's some progress in some places, as you just mentioned. Earlier this month, South Carolina Supreme Court struck down that state's abortion ban. They said it violated the state's constitution. Your organization actually helped in that lawsuit. But just like that Texas one you brought up, how much of these things, how much of the South Carolina situation is limited to South Carolina, and how much of it is lessons that can be applied to other states?
Well, when you have a decision in a state Supreme Court, of course, it's applying that state's law in that state. But, of course, judges and courts rely on decisions from other states informing their own analysis of what is legal in their state's constitutions. So to have something like South Carolina joining many other states that do protect abortion in their state constitutions, it's a big win, and particularly in an area that's going to be so important in the South for abortion access.
Nancy, good to talk to you this morning. Thank you for being with us. Nancy Northup is the president and CEO of the Center for Reproductive Rights.